بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ونسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions. Thereafter, know that amongst the sins of the body parts is uququl walidain. Uquq al-walidain. Al-uquq refers to harming one's parents severely. If one has Muslim parents, then if he harms these parents severely, then it is considered a major sin with details that we are now going to give. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he taught us that al-aaq liwalidayhi, the one who severely harms his parents, this person will be amongst those people who will not enter paradise with the first batch of people that will enter it. Al-aaq lil-walid or lil-walidah. Al-uquq, refers to one's the treatment of one's parents, and likewise one's grandparents and those that are above them. So it doesn't just mean the parents, it also includes the grandparents. In general, it is sunnah for a person to obey one's parents. This is if what they are saying is not, if what they are telling you to do is not something that is haram, for example. Then to obey them in something permissible, this is sunnah. Now, this is with regards to what is sunnah. Sometimes obeying one's parents becomes obligatory. And this is if, let's say, they order you to do something. If you know that if you do not obey this order of your parent, this order which originally the matter that they want you to do, it is allowed. It's not fard originally upon you. But let's say it's a matter that's allowed. So they ask you to do something that is permissible, something that is allowed. And you know that if you don't do this, then this is going to hurt them so much that it will cause them severe sadness. It will cause them to be heartbroken if you don't do this thing. Then doing this thing actually becomes obligatory. Doing this thing actually becomes fard. Likewise, if one's parents tell one not to do something, like for example, if one's parents say to somebody, don't go out at this time. Don't go out at this time. Like after 9 p.m., don't go out. And this person knows that if I go out then, in their knowledge, if I go out at 9 p.m. or after 9 p.m., then this will severely harm my mother. She will be distraught. She will be afraid. She will be heartbroken. And she will be extremely sad because of me disobeying her, because of me going out. She will be greatly worried for me by me going out so late. Then him or her going out at this time, it actually, or rather, to disobey one's parent in this becomes something impermissible. To disobey one's parent here would be haram. So disobeying one's parent here, like we said, it would be sinful, and therefore obeying one's parent, i.e. not going out, would be an obligation. One must not then go out in this situation. And this goes for all of the other matters that you can think of, matters that are originally permissible. The reason that we are saying permissible is because if your parents tell you to do something obligatory and you don't do it, then already you would be committing a sin. So it's important for a person to understand this. The parents have a great right upon a person because they are the ones that cared for one when one was young. So it is important then to return in some shape or form, to return this good favor that they had upon you. This doesn't mean that the favor that they have upon you can be repaid in full. No. But it should be something, it should be a gesture of goodwill that one would treat their parents well when their parents become older and are now in need. The Prophet ﷺ said, Anta wa maluka li abika, which means that it is obligatory upon you to support your parents, for example, when they become ill. So it is obligatory upon you to serve your parents. It is obligatory upon you to serve them and take care of them by using your body. The hadith that we mentioned means that your body and your wealth belong to your parents, meaning that they have a right to them. For example, if they became financially in a tight situation. So when they fall ill, you are obligated to care for them. When they are in a financial difficulty, meaning that religiously they become poor, they become fuqara, then in this case, all of the children have to provide for their parents, their poor parents, equally. So if there are 5 of them, they split it up into 5 and they give equal parts. This is the rule of the religion in this regard when it comes to the parents. It is also important to mention that whilst one's parents are alive, then one must take advantage of the dua of the parents for the child. The Prophet ﷺ said that there are a few types of dua that are answered, that they are du'as in which there is no doubt about them being answered. And one of these, in them he mentioned the du'a for, or rather the du'a of the parent against the child, and in another narration, the du'a of the parent for the child. So if one wrongs their parents, then this is very dangerous, as well as that being sinful. If a parent makes dua against their child, then that dua would be answered. So the child would be afflicted with a hardship. The son or the daughter would be afflicted with a hardship. Likewise, if a person wanted to benefit from the dua of their mother or their father, then if they treat them well, then the dua of the mother and the dua of the father would be mustajab. It would be answered. So it is important for a person not to commit this major sin of uququl walidain, not to commit this major sin of harming one's parents. Likewise, amongst the sins of the body is to cut the ties of kinship. The ties of kinship, this refers to your family members, which means your mother and your father, your siblings and their children, as well as your grandparents and your aunties and your uncles, meaning your mother's brothers and sisters and your father's brothers and sisters. Likewise, your first cousins. So your mom's brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. And likewise, your dad's brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. So, and their children. So these come under your silatul rahim. Silatul rahim, it refers to the obligatory ties of kinship, the obligatory family ties that you have to keep. So also we learn from this that a person does not have to keep family ties. He is not obligated to keep family ties with, for example, the fourth and the fifth cousins and the really, really far away people. Or, for example, a person doesn't have to keep ties with people just because they are from the same area in their original country. So, for example, if you take Pakistan, if there are people or families that live in your that originally lived in your town or your village, then if they are not blood relatives, then you are not obligated to keep ties with them. If you were to not keep ties with them, then you would not be sinful. I'm not saying if you were to ignore them and shun them. No, this is a different matter. But not keeping ties with them because they're not blood relations, this would not be sinful. But it's good to keep ties with them too. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's good to keep ties with them. But let's say you neglected that, you didn't do that, you wouldn't be sinful. So it's important for a person to keep the ties of kin, even if those other people, the other family members, don't keep the ties of kin with you. You should still go and do it, because the Prophet ﷺ praised the person who does that. So if someone's cutting you off, then don't do the same. Don't say, oh, they cut me off, so I'm going to cut them off. Don't do the same. Wherever somebody cuts you off, whenever a family member who you have to keep ties with cuts you off, then you don't do the same. You should go and meet with them and go to their house and so on. So in terms of keeping the ties of kinship, a person needs to visit, for example, in a town, let's say in a town like, for example, in a town or a city. Let's say a city like Damascus, a city like Beirut, a city like Baghdad, okay? Or in a city like that. The habit of the people has become that they are not, they do not feel abandoned if you visit them once or twice a year. So let's say you visit them once a year, or let's say you visit them twice a year on the 2 Eids, then that would be enough. Because the whole point is that they should not feel a sense of abandonment from you, as though you've forgotten about them. If you visit them on Eid, on both Eids, for example, and you attend their funerals, the funerals in their family, and the occasions that are happy occasions, like, for example, when someone gets married, then you meet at that place and so on. This would be included in you keeping the ties. But don't let the situation be that a person is made to feel that you don't care about them, and that a person wonders, why don't they come to my house? So it's important for a person to keep ties in this way. Likewise, amongst the sins of the body is for men, in other than times of war, it's for men to dye their hair black. This is something that is not permissible, to dye the hair black. To dye it other colors would be okay, but to dye the hair black, this is something that is not permissible for men. Another sin of the body is for a man, to, for example, imitate a female, and for a female to imitate a male. What that means is, if a man copies a woman in her voice, for example, then this is not permissible. This is haram. If he makes his voice light and squeaky like a female's voice, then this person is committing a major sin. The companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, La'ana Rasulullah, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent la'nat upon the men that imitate women and the women that imitate men. So this occurs through voice. So if he makes his voice very, very soft like the voice of a woman, and he intends to do that, then this is a major sin. Likewise, for example, if she roughens her voice deliberately to make it like the voice of a man, this is also haram. Also, in clothing, there are things that only men, or for example, there are things that only women wear. These certain things, it is not permissible for a man to wear them. Like, for example, some women, they may wear high heels. High heels. This is something that only some women do. Only women do that. And this is specific for women. So for a man to wear that, even for a joke, for a man to wear that, this is considered haram and it is a major sin. Likewise, there are other things that only women wear. For example, in the chest area, things that only women wear. For a man to wear that would also be haram because it's specific for women, and so on. So there are ways of talking, ways of dressing, ways of walking for a man to walk like a woman, for a man to walk in a way that a woman walks, to do that deliberately, to imitate a woman. This is a major sin. This is a major sin. So it's important for a person to know what it is that is considered womanly and what it is that is considered manly, so that the opposite gender doesn't fall into it. This, subhanallah, nowadays many people, they fall into these kinds of matters and then they become confused because they didn't have anybody to guide them to the proper knowledge of al-Islam. So they would be confused about certain matters where men and women, they would start doing things that are specific to the opposite gender. But there are some things that are not specific to the opposite gender, like, for example, wearing on the lower part of the body. What does a person usually wear? A person usually wears trousers or pants. Okay, these are general between men and women. Men wear them and women wear them to cover the lower part of the body. So this is permissible for both. Socks, for example, men wear them and women wear them. Okay. Other things, like, for example, soap, right? Men use it and women use it. There's no such thing as women's soap or women's shampoo. So what? Only women can put that on their hair to wash them? Since when has something that cleans been specific for one of the gender? It's not. So a man, let's say he was to buy shampoo where it says women's shampoo, then he can wear it because it's shampoo at the end of the day. It's not something womanly like that. And likewise for soap and so on. So a person needs to go by the rules of the religion. A person needs to govern and judge themselves by the rules of the religion, not what some person wrote as a on a sign in a supermarket. So a person would be classed by what that person wrote in the supermarket, oh, for men only or for women only. This is important for a person to understand, like certain types of oil. Men may put them in their hair. It might have a woman on it, for example, and it shows that she has long hair. What does that mean? It's haram for a man to put that oil in his hair, and so on. There are many examples, but one needs to learn. How would a person know otherwise? How would a person know otherwise? Another example is something that is considered to be resembling a woman that some men do is that they tie their hair in a ponytail. Now, this is womanly. The Prophet ﷺ sent la'nat upon this person. He sent la'nat upon this person that ties his hair in a ponytail, if he's a man. So if you know somebody who ties his hair in a ponytail, a man, he ties his hair, you know what a ponytail is, then he needs to be told that you look like a woman. And the Prophet ﷺ sent la'nat upon people, upon men who imitate women. So that would include you. So stop being womanly, grow up and be a man, because what you're doing is not manly. And it's not it's not something that makes you look good. Why is it that you do that? Because you saw some American actor do it in a film? Why is it that you do that? Because you saw some hero in an Indian movie, or or another film, or a series. You saw someone doing that and you thought it looked good. Well, you thought it looked good because you didn't learn that this is something specific for women, so you did it. You saw you saw a man riding a motorbike, for example, and the wind was in his hair and he had a ponytail. And this ponytail, it was moving around in the wind, and he thought, wow, that looks amazing. And so he thought, oh, let me get it done too. Let me get an elastic band. Let me get a bubble and let me tie my hair up in one place. And so that I look like a woman, it makes me look tough. No, it doesn't. It makes you look like a woman. There are no two ways about it. So if you know somebody who ties their hair like this, then tell them that this is a tashabbuh bin nisa. This is imitating a woman. Even if you say, oh well, I don't mean to imitate a woman. I don't mean to look like a woman. It's just me, innit? No, but still, you're imitating a woman. It's like if you start wearing high heels and you say, oh, I don't mean to imitate a woman. I'm just being me. I'm an individual. I'm independent. No, you look like a woman. And the Prophet ﷺ sent la'na upon such a person. So don't do that, because you would be mal'oon. You would be a lanti. So don't do that. You would be a person who is distanced from the signs of the mercy of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. You, this very person, if you look 2 generations before you, at your grandparents, at your grandfather, for example, or a generation above that, your great-grandfather, if they saw you doing this, what would they do? Well, they probably would have disciplined you. They probably would have grabbed you by your ponytail and disciplined you. So let us not fall for the habits of the non-Muslims. Some of these things they have been popularized or aggrandized in the eyes of some because of what the non-Muslims do, because people see it everywhere. They see it on television, they see it on YouTube, they see it on Netflix, they see it on social media, and so they start to think that this is really good. This is really good. And so they do it. And likewise, the opposite. The worst sin, the scholars mention, the worst sin is for a person to, for a woman to imitate a man. This is more sinful. Don't get me wrong. For a man to imitate a woman, this is a major sin. But for a woman to imitate a man, this is also a major sin, but it's even more severe. It's even more sinful. So a woman is a woman and she does womanly things. And a man is a man and he does manly things. But nowadays, I mean, in the past it would be very clear, but nowadays people have to be taught what are the things that are manly and what are the things that are womanly. Like, for example, to wear a silver bracelet, for a man to wear a silver bracelet. What are you doing? That's womanly. Don't do that. To wear, for example, a silver necklace or a chain, to wear a silver chain around the neck, that's womanly. To wear a gold watch, to wear, and so on. We could keep going. I think you get the idea. This is womanly, and this is not permissible. The scholars of Islam, they did not consider that to be permissible. Because, for example, and there are proofs. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that gold jewelry has been made permissible from the women of my ummah. So if you're wearing it, are you wearing it because you think you're a woman? Now, if that's the case and you're actually a man, if you think you're a woman, then you have serious problems. Serious problems. But if you know you're a man, then know that the Prophet ﷺ said that such things are haram upon men. So don't do it. These are, you see, there are many sins of the body parts. And if a person continues to commit these sins of the body parts, then there may come a time when this person's heart becomes completely dark. It becomes black. And then the signs of the mercy of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala do not enter it. So it's important for a person to stay away from these sins. And if they see someone committing these sins, tell them that this is something sinful. Look, when someone is disobeying Allah Ta'ala, and you tell them that they're disobeying Allah, it doesn't matter about what they feel. It doesn't matter about their feelings. So don't be a person that says, oh, well, if I tell them that you're doing something haram, it's probably going to make them cry, or it's going to hurt their feelings. And no, they're disobeying Allah. They're disobeying Allah. They had the nerve to disobey Allah, and now here's you trying to play qad yuqal Mary Poppins, yani, you're caring about their feelings. Come on. They're disobeying Allah Ta'ala. So it's obligatory upon you to say to them that this is something that is haram. And we'll stop there today, insha'Allah Ta'ala, and continue next time with the sins of the body, insha'Allah Ta'ala. Walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.